Hello and happy Thursday, Cadesport Thursday Racing. I am Beth York and I am in the house with Frank. Good afternoon, Frank.
Good afternoon, Beth. It's still morning for me, but I'm looking forward to the afternoon.
Because you'll be done with racing. You'll be done and not with your day. But
Mostly because I
this
can
is a
eat,
great.
because I do like intermittent fasting, so I don't eat in the morning. So that's why I look forward to afternoon.
There you go. There you go. Lots to look forward to this afternoon. And in 2.5 minutes here, we will be kicking off Thursday, our 4-race playlist, the same place we saw in action on Tuesday. So it'll be interesting throughout the broadcast, Frank, for us to kind of compare and contrast what we saw with the racers on Tuesday and what they bring in on Thursday.
Absolutely. So we've got Timothy in. I don't see Carl, who took the day on Tuesday. Oh, and as I say that, Carl shows up. So we look to see the heavyweights of Carl and Timothy. I don't think I see Sebastian in, who was third overall, I believe, on Tuesday. But we do have the heavyweights. But I suspect a couple of surprises will come out of today now that people know what the courses hold in store for them.
Yes, and let's take a look at this first course, 8.5 kilometers. It's Lake Bend. It is a route around a lake. There's no obstacles, but there are 2 corners that could be taken, that could really take the riders by surprise. And I think we've seen that before. And the power-ups at play are 2 Razor's Edge. So that's something that allows them to be a little bit more aerodynamic, get that speed. So where they use it will be important. On race number 2, 2.3 kilometers on Cadesport Aurora. That was an absolute crash fest. So much fun to watch that unfold. And in 2.3 kilometers, there's going to be so much action. I'm sure we're going to have a hard time making all the calls. The race 3 is Apex Mountains. It's 15 kilometers. It is a couple lumpy bumps we saw on Tuesday. That the peloton largely stuck together before the first climb, and then we saw some attacks, and we saw Timothy just let Carl Axel get out of reach, but on Dark Matter Velo, we saw Timothy come back, as is his secret weapon toolkit, and take the win on the 4th course on the playlist today, the 1.5 kilometer lightning fast round, Dark Matter Velo, 1 corner paper at play, 1 quantum shift at play. And in that race, I did note on Tuesday, those were played as combos right before the finish line in that finishing corner, with the exception of someone who used it right off the gate, which I believe was Vanessa. So we'll take a look and track that and make those comparisons. But let's get to that first race, Lake Bend. We start in 10 seconds. You can see the riders list there on the left-hand side. A reminder that when they leave the gate, they are semi-transparent, which means that they can pedal through each other, and this is just to establish position. So this first few seconds of the race is really where people are deciding where they want to be. Are they going to lead the pack? Are they going to establish the pacing, or are they going to just follow the pacing? And you see, no surprise, Peter and Homer right there out in front, initially starting to control the race with almost 500 watts of power there. You can see Peter in the lower left-hand corner. He's in his door jam. It seems like it might be like a weird place to put your bike, but he's on rollers, folks. He does not have a fixed wheel trainer, so he is balancing his bike while steering his bike in game. And that is a very, very hard thing to do, let alone the racing itself. So well done, Peter. So Peter, Team CCC, we saw Homer also on camera on Tuesday racing and really making some decisive moves. And as Peter kind of settles into the race tempo here, I think that these riders are just going to try to hang together, draft where they can, and then save some action for the bump.
Absolutely. And what I noticed another heavyweight in today, Casey. So maybe Casey will be filling in for Sebastian today. So definitely 3 heavyweights in at the beginning. We've got someone off the back, but generally we've got a beautiful pace line here. Someone must be going fairly hard on the front. Really about threshold. right around threshold. Threshold on equalized watts is 421 watts, and we see sort of Peter's in that particular zone, or maybe that's a little bit frozen. So given that there was a line forming at the time, probably they were going a little bit harder than that. And what we see here is the pack stretching out across the road, which is an indication we don't even really have to look at the watts that everybody's putting out. We know that the watts are down a little bit. There we've got a Velocity Vixen jersey a little bit off the back. That would probably be Carl. Yep. Looking to save some energy at the back of the pack. You can really get a big draft savings there. But then, of course, you might miss an attack off the front. Carl probably is comfortable that he can cover that. And as I say that, who else but probably Timothy Tamont off the front there doing a little bit of an attack early in the race.
Yeah, he did use that same. I came in a little bit late to the broadcast, and I know that. I think by the time he got to Apex Mountains, he was kind of feeling it a little bit. So I'm sure he's sort of checking himself so he doesn't wreck himself, to kind of really kind of punch out the legs of his competitors, but make sure he has the sustenance to make it through all of these races. And one thing about the playlist too, they all are slightly
big attack by DJ off the front here.
There he is.
Sorry to interrupt there.
Yes.
But he's putting the pressure on. Timothy's going to cover. Looked like Vanessa was going to try and cover. I think Vanessa is out to do something special today, but maybe just covering the brakes for her teammate Shaq, who wrecked in the second to last corner on Tuesday, and maybe she's looking to see if she can, secure the win and not get caught out by one of those last two corners that are somewhat technical.
Yeah, and it does look like that attack didn't stick. It is closing back up into a nice long line there. You can see Timothy on the front there, and I'm looking at the relative heart rates there between the racers, and they're all up over 170, so they're all working pretty hard, so that you know that the effort is pretty well matched, and nobody is sort of hurting more than another, so to speak. They're all sort of kind of hurting equally. I don't know if it's a term for pain. It is nice to see Casey.
It's called suffering, and yeah, I never really say pain, although it's certainly that you'll start to feel in your legs. But good cyclists just know how to suffer, and we'll certainly see a bit of that. We see Martin coming to the front here, testing his legs, putting in some big attacks, but he's closely followed by Casey, and then Casey moves to the other side of the road. Of course, you can steer in Cadesport, and maybe he's looking to get some of the other heavyweights to follow him, or maybe he's just looking to set up for this corner and sort of go to the back and get a big draft. And great drafting dynamics here. One of the things that Cadesport excels at is the drafting dynamics. We've put in a huge amount of learning in the draft, and these drafts are going to be very, very realistic. So you get these thin lines, you can do pace lines in Cadesport, and you'll get really good drafting dynamics. And we see Vanessa coming up here to the front, along with I believe that's Casey. So we've got sort of a side-by-side pace line going, which will provide even better draft for some of the people further back. And we've got, it looks like, a couple of people off the back. It's going to be hard for them to catch the peloton.
Yeah, it does look like just 4 seconds back is Kay from this group, but not to be counted out. She might be just picking her spot, saying, I'm not going to do a lot more on this race here. You can see here Peter and Renee here trying to oh sorry, that's Renee on to Kay. I see Peter on screen, and I saw the yellow CCC, but that in fact is not Peter that we're looking at right now. That is his teammate Kay here with Renee. So maybe the Renee and Kay can team up and try to shut down the gap here. But back on the front, Vanessa on the front of this, setting the pace. We've seen her in the last couple of weeks, really be a little bit more dangerous. And I think it's because, not because anyone ever counts Vanessa out. People know better. But I think that she's been able to sort of like surprise people with both her tactics and her strength. So it's really nice to see her coming along like that, and being in this front group, and really kind of laying it down. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, Erhan and all the other thumbnails of the racers that are in on course. They've got the in-game communication. They can talk to each other. And they can hear the broadcast, and I can also see their faces when they curse me if I say their name, and then I give them a crash. I don't really take ownership of that. I just acknowledge that sometimes there's coincidences. On board here with BJ Alfonso here, and one of the newer racers, been joining over the last couple of weeks. I think he's sort of figuring out the game dynamics, which there is a little bit of a learning curve to the game. And I say little bit, it's actually a lot of bit. Sort of once you think you've got it down, you realize there's something else to learn across a different course. And of course, what the other racers play. Now, we haven't seen any of the Razor's Edge deployed yet. We've got 2.7 kilometers to go, which makes me think that we're going to be gearing up for a massive sprint with some double Razor's Edge.
Yeah, I don't think there's any power-ups in this first race today, Beth, and I'm wondering what happened to BJ. I wonder if he suffered a little bit of a mechanical or something, because he was off the front. Now he's off the back. Maybe this happens to me in pace lines sometimes. I go too hard on the front, and then when I try and catch on the back, it's a little surprising how fast everybody is going, and I miss it and I get gapped. Or maybe he went to the back and then he got gapped off by somebody, which certainly can happen. And if you're tired, it can be hard to catch back on. Well, we must have Razor's Edge in this, because somebody's using it, so I stand corrected. You're absolutely correct. It looks like here Timothy Tamont is off the front, and he's going to try and take the victory today. Now, he crashed in the very last corner on Tuesday, so I'm sure he'll be looking to correct that mistake and take the win for the day.
It does look like they're not going to let that stick here. Timothy's got, they're coming back together here. Carl Axel kind of whipping around. The Razor's Edge, they have a point of which they won't be helpful anymore, because if you get to the corner and you have that speed, you don't want to waste the free speed. Of course, it makes you more aerodynamic so that you can move through the course faster. So I'm kind of surprised I haven't yet seen it here. 1.4 kilometers to go. Carl Axel, Timothy on his heels. We've got Jeff. We've got, here are the racers. We've seen this before. Mano a mano here, just digging in, and Carl holding that pace and dropping some pretty consistently high watts, around 500. You can see people giving him a little bit of Cade emoji action there on the top, a nice thumbs up. Well done. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to see if they overcook it. I'm nervous for them, Frank, even though they know what to do.
Well, you also got Martin and Jeff sort of closing that gap. You've got Carl now here using his power up, and the question is, will he be able to maintain his that gap using that? As you said, will it cost him in that he crashes in the corner? Or Carl's good at braking, so I think that will be good. Oh, you got Timothy using it very late here, but probably having to come off the power for a corner. Oh, but he goes right by Carl, and now Carl gets on it. But oh my goodness, the top four all going down. Nobody else, it looked like they were close enough. Oh, Peter was close enough, but he bumps into the back of Timothy, and now it'll be a sprint. But the question is, easy on this corner. You got to get through the corner before you go hard on the power, and it looks like they've got it down. Very, very close. Big sprint coming here, and oh my gosh, that's too close to call. My guess is probably Timothy crosses first, but boy, it's got to be by hundredths of a second, I would imagine. Everybody going down here in this particular corner. So everybody overcooked it except for Peter. Now, Timothy got back right up, back on the power. Casey Wonder what happened to Casey there as well. Surprised that he's a little bit further back. Maybe he went down as well. Kay crossing the line here as well. So very,
Yeah.
very interesting finish.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as I was watching that unfold. So Timothy's at the front and takes the first crash. People are following his wheel not to let any bit of a gap fall. They all go down, but because Timothy went down first, he had a slight advantage where he could get up to speed a little bit faster, so that he could kind of leave the crash pile. But as you said, Peter was right there, consistent, making sure, and it was too close to call. Timothy did take that. It looked like a tie at the line. I'm glad we had a photo finish there. Carl Axel takes third. Jeff the Looney, I love changing the names here. Vanessa taking fifth. Martin, thank you for calling that out. I wasn't sure the first name of that rider there. Homer, KCK, and Alfonso in the first race. Now, does this one have a 2 times multiplier just like on Tuesday?
It has a 1.5 times multiplier. The third race has the 2-time multiplier, just like Tuesday. Everything else is the same. I think Peter's rollers cost him there. Couldn't lay down as much of a sprint. Otherwise, I think that was Peter's race to have. He handled that last, all the technical corners with aplomb. So I know Peter's more of an endurance rider, maybe a little bit less into the technical side, but the technical side surely helped him today. And good heart shown by Timothy and Carl to get back up and get across the line.
That was awesome. Our next race going in, so those are our top 3, 4, 5. Our next race is Cadesport Aurora. 3 laps, 2.4 kilometers, 2.3 kilometers. There's one quarter caper and 1 quantum shift in play here. There's no obstacles on this course, but there are a lot of tight turns and distractions. And you can see there's a couple little punchy up bumps, and then one towards the end of the lap there. So these racers are this is one of the things, just we talk a lot about corners, Frank, but I do also feel like when you do have a little down and up and you're applying that power, and if you don't know where the course is, you apply the power to kind of keep that speed going up the hill, and then you hit a corner. So it's definitely a tempo thing in using those little bumps and knowing where those corners are. So I think we're about 5 seconds away from the start.
Yeah, go ahead. Call the start.
All right, here we go. Out of the gate they go. A little bit of a dig here. Again, transparent for the first little section here. Corner caper out of the gate by Carl Axel, just kind of establishing that gap right ahead. And now if he puts himself in the first place, you can see the crashes happening in red behind him. Too many to call. But if he does this, boom. And he got a lead.
Mistake by Carl. Unexpected. Great use of the power up to start, but then and he got down to speed. Looks like he just didn't brake enough there.
Right. I think that tactic, though, on these short courses is if you can get enough of a lead, even if it's just 1 or 2 seconds out of the gate, you're putting the people behind you in the chase position, right? So it's sort of like the predator-prey situation where it's like, okay, well, you know what? I am the predator. I'm setting the pace. People have to chase me, and they're likely to make more mistakes on the chase than they are if they were holding the front. But we did see him go down and make that mistake, but he's still holding that front lead. Peter behind him. Jeff, I think he also knows that everyone else is going to be making some mistakes. So able to pull it up by 2 or 3 seconds and hold that front. And Peter, who just was in second in the last race, I don't know. He's being very measured here. You can see him slow down a little bit on those corners to kind of be mindful, but he's down to 5 seconds in 1.6 kilometers. Want us on that, Frank?
Yeah, so very interesting. Peter is riding this course with just a rhythm, just probably on his rollers, just maintaining some, maybe around 200 watts, maybe picking it up a little bit and then coasting through. But he's doing an excellent job here on a technical course, and he's, following Carl. Carl's been doing very, very well on the technical courses. More surprising, Timothy looks like he just crashed. Jeff just crashed. Renee just crashed. Casey just crashed. And really the key to these courses is just to ride your own race and ride a rhythm, and you will be amazed at how many people you will pass as they crash in the corners.
Yeah, and I think that, the way that I'm watching the speed differentials between Carl and Peter, and I'm watching the watts, it doesn't really look like Peter's gunning to catch up with Carl Axel. Like right now, 31:32, Peter 26. So he said, in 1 kilometer, I'm not going to catch him. My goal is to just hold my position on second, not make a mistake. Carl Axel is holding his position on the front, not wanting to make a mistake, because there would be a chance, slim now, that he could get caught. But if he just maintains this, doesn't let the pressure get to him, stays focused, he'll take the win on this one. But downstream of Peter and Carl will be interesting to see how those shake out, because there were a number of crashes, and I think the third, fourth, fifth position are going to be ones that will be in contention here. Timothy 1 second ahead of Jeff. Renee about 8 seconds back. So there is a chance for Jeff to get ahead of Timothy. But Timothy at this point knows, okay, well, I'm probably not going to catch up to Peter. So I just need to hold this third. I need to get as many points as I can out of this Apex Mountains.
Moving to third has helped Timothy. He was 1 point in front of Carl for the overall, given these last two races. But moving into third, and he goes down because that really gave him a little bit more, 3 or 4 points buffer. And then we see Jeff, great use of a power up. And the question is, will he get onto the straight? He does get onto the straight. Now, can he break in time on that uphill? And the answer is no. He makes the same mistake that Carl made, and he just couldn't slow down in time with that beautiful use of the power up. But they needed to break sooner.
Yep, and here's Carl Axel. 3 kilometers. He's lapping some of the other riders on course. That's what you're seeing here, and that's how you can visually know whether those riders are in contention with you. Of course, Carl knows he's in first, but if you're watching and you were wondering what that was, Peter just drops his corner caper there. I think it was just sort of expiring as we cut to his camera, but Carl Axel is going to take this with 0.1 kilometers to go, nice and controlled. Other than that first crash, he established the lead, kept the lead. Peter didn't take the bait and try to race him down. Peter said, that's fine. I'll take second. Thank you very much. And then we'll see if it does look like Timothy and Jeff are... Jeff just goes down. Timothy might have a chance to seal third here. We're on board with Peter, who's going to be coming across the line in a second here. But with Timothy and Jeff just 2 seconds offset of each other, it'll be interesting to see who takes the third spot. Here we are on board. Peter comes across the line. He's done. Timothy, I don't see Jeff causing him any stress at the moment. And if I look at the power, it does look like Jeff is maybe trying to catch it and close with 1 second left. So these riders just have a little bit of course left, but it doesn't look like Jeff is going to be able to overtake Timothy. Timothy holds that third spot, but he did do a nice fight there. Jeff, well done, trying to get that together. Back on board here with Shaq as she comes through the finishing corners. Nice job by Shaq in this race. We were talking about her on Tuesday, but that's a very respectable finish on this course. Well done.
Absolutely. Well done by Shaq to come in fifth there. And looking at the scoreboard, we got Timothy 3 points ahead of Carl, so that definitely helped. We've got Jeff in third place with 30 points, and Peter moving up the scoreboard. I've got to look at that and get Peter.
You do the math, and I'll do the words.
Yep, I put on the
all right.
I put on the one. Actually, it's Timothy at 44, Peter at 42 and a half, and Carl at 41 points. We've got a display on that, but let me catch this before we go. Peter.
All right. Well, this is the results of this first race here. While he carries the 1 and divides by pi, we are going to be going with those very tight point spreads, 42, 41 and a half, and 41 on the top 3 spots. Moving into Apex Mountain, a longer course. It will be interesting to see how those racers play that. Now, this is a game, and this is coming into the third race here. There's our scoreboard, Frank. All right, so let's take a look at that. Timothy 42, Peter 42.5, and Carl Axel 41. So 3-point differential between 1 and 3, and then a little bit of a gap down to Jeff. So this race will test their legs, They're focused, and I think we might see some more traditional race tactics because there aren't any power-ups and there's not a lot of sharp turns, so it's going to be legs, it's going to be drafting, it's going to be lane positioning, and it's going to be just to see if these racers mount any attacks. I'm kind of interested to see. We've got some team members out there. We saw Homer K and Peter of Team CCC, so I think that it'd be great to see some team tactics from them to see what they can bring. We've got Vanessa and Shaq that can team up. I'm interested to see if they work together, but I do think we're going to just see a group out of the gate here. They're getting their position in, establishing the position that they want to be in, and also the pacing, right? So are you a leader or are you a follower out the gate? Are you going to match what people are doing in front of you, or are you going to be a part of establishing that? So we've got Ollie here on the front, 500 equalized watts. He's laying down a pretty swift pace. He's seeing if Shaq will take the bait and come. It does look like Shaq is definitely giving some effort there. Here we are on board, very focused. You can see that he is, I think, just racing something. Ollie looking good there. And the rest of the pack is going to be closing in on him there. You can see that gap. You can look over his shoulder, and he knows for 15 kilometers he's probably not going to be able to hold off that entire train, but he is going to make them work a little bit.
He might be thinking at the moment, because I think Ollie's new to the platform, so equalization is just sort of figuring out. Ollie, it's going to do it in real time. What Ollie's probably going to see is he's probably going to see less power over the course of this race as time goes on, as the system understands that he's able to put out more power. What you'll see from the pack is they'll stay close. You saw them in a thin line. Now they've sort of reduced their power, if you will. Maybe the system is already starting to make some corrections for Ollie's power, but that will get equalized here very shortly. And you'll see the rest of the pack sort of maintain connection, and then probably towards the end, everybody should be on equal footing. In the meantime, the pack has the advantage of the pack. We see a couple, looks like we've got Peter Castro saying, you know what, I think I want to see if I can tap into some of that power and draft off of it. And you see him making the bridge to Ollie. And what you'll see here is we've got Kay Thompson also looking to bridge. You got Jeff following that move. You got Shaq following that move. I would expect Vanessa to be up here, but I don't see her. Maybe she dropped off the back there at the beginning. And maybe Shaq is looking to have a very strong race today, as she did in the first race on Tuesday. And it looks like it's all coming back to, no, we're still a little bit of a break here. Are we all back together? We're almost all the way back together.
Yeah, and so as you said, Peter, Team CCC, covered that break even with sort of the equalize, but I think that was an interesting decision because the pack can kind of like act as a pack, right? Like, oh, no, let him go. He's a new rider. It'll correct itself by the end of the race. I'm not going to do that. Or KG, Peter saying, you know what? I'm going to just like go up there and suck the wheel and get that free speed. Kay said, I'll come with you. I think she hesitated a little bit to see if anybody would cover Peter's attack, and she didn't want to pull the group with her, but she ended up, really pulling that group back together on the front there. So she doesn't want to lose sight of her teammate. So the two of them can work together here in the pack. It is stretching out a little bit. You can see the equalized watts there are a little bit, all over the place, but the speed, 46, 47, they're all cooking pretty fast on this flat section of our Apex Mountains course. You can see the two on the left-hand side. You can see the course profile, the map, as well as the elevation profile. So right now on the flat, trying to conserve as much as you can. Again, there are no power-ups in this course, so it's all tactics, it's all legs, and it's a little bit longer than those earlier races. So this is the one that all things being equal, it speaks to a racer's fitness level a little bit differently than those shorter 2.4, 1.5 races. Here we are on the pack. Ollie in the front, still holding on, and the pack mentality says, "That's cool, Ollie. Pull us all. We'll just take the draft," which will be really interesting to see. what happens on
Yeah,
the climb.
sorry about that. I had turned on my mute button. I was talking, and but nobody was hearing me. I have a habit of doing that. As you can see, there's a little bit more suffering coming onto Ollie's face, so equalization working. We've got a couple of riders just off the back who, if they work hard, can make connections with this front group. And boy, it'll get so much easier if they can just get close to the back of that pack. But this is much more your standard road race sort of tactics that you will see. And here, Kay's feeling good today. I can sort of look at her. She's closed the gap a couple of times. Now she's up here on the front. There's a couple of other yellow jerseys in here for CCC, so everybody else should be on alert that there might be some attacking, especially as we reach the climb, which won't be for a while. So it'll be interesting to see what team tactics CCC will be playing today.
Yeah, you mentioned that Kay's having a good day, and for anyone who's watching the stream, you don't need to know Kay to know that she's having a good day, but you can also kind of see when you're looking at the rider list, the relative sort of suffering in terms of the equalized heart rate. She's definitely at a lower heart rate than the rest of the crew, and that can, having a strong day, had her Wheaties for breakfast, coming in strong, and and it does look like, okay, VJ here is looking to kind of close that gap and come down, come over and get a little bit of that free speed, and he now would probably be more or less equalized. I know that it does take a little bit of time depending on races and the way, but he's probably
and
realizing.
All he's got to do here is and boy, this is really hard, but he's got a little bit of heart rate left. If he can just close that gap, and I've been in this position so many times as a sprinter, especially before the climb, you really want to close that gap, get back onto the group, sort of get that 60 to 80% draft savings from the aerodynamics. But it's looking like he's fading a little bit here. It'll be interesting to see if the group sort of slows down. But man, the group at the front has been really animated, sort of attack after attack after attack, and we see Ollie going off the front yet again, really putting everybody else into the hurt locker here. We see Timothy here just dangling off the back, probably suffering quite a bit. And you really want to keep those gaps to a minimum. It makes a huge difference in what your savings are, but it's easily said. It's often very hard to do it.
Yes, I agree. And too, as we get closer to the hill, those little punches, I call them little punches to the legs, the little attacks that people are giving you, just the fatigue builds throughout the race. And then if you get to the climb and you're in the front position, you're slowing down, so the people in the back, if they're not, if they have an opportunity to close the gap if they keep the speed up on the flat. But if the racer in the front has a gap on you and they crest the hill and come down the other side, it's going to be awfully hard. So if it's the time to close the gap is the flat to the climb, not try to chase down and close it on the climb, because you're likely not going to make it happen. That said, these racers surprise me all the time, Frank. And I'm happy to eat my words. So, but if Ollie keeps
road,
up,
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And on the road, what we see now is Peter is the overall leader on the road at 76.5 points, Carl in second at 61, and Timothy at 58. So Peter's got quite a separation here. Now you see Carl says, wait a minute, that's not going to go down that way. But it'll be interesting to see if CCC can use some team tactics now to vault Peter to the front in this double points race, to see if they can set him up to take it easy on DMV to secure the win for the day. What we also see here is Ollie has really, one of the things he's done is animated the race today. He's put people into the hurt locker. We've got Kay Thompson up here, though. It looks like she's got a lot of power to give. So her job is probably just to cover any moves. She's going to cover Ollie. Timothy fading today. It looks like maybe a bit fatigued overall, so he might be dropping down the standings, and it'll be interesting to see how that turns out for the day.
Yes, you can see that they are on the climb here. It's not particularly steep, but it's enough to feel it in those legs, and it does look like we're nearing the little flat at the top with a little bar. So the pack is not letting Ollie open up any of a gap, and as you said, Kay is making sure she covers for her teammate Peter, who has that ability for the win. On this one is a 2 times multiplier, is what I heard you say. So it can really upset, shake up the. This is an expensive one too. You want all the points. You want to get as many points as you can. And one thing that we haven't really been talking about is Carl Axel, because Carl Axel here with the wins in his back pocket, just hanging on to the back. He hasn't really came to the front. He hasn't done a lot of work. And, we're used to calling his name. And I say that, Carl, I know you're working. Trust me. I know you're working, Carl Axel. But he's hanging in the pack and conserving. So he's going to have some legs at the end. He did win those first 2 races. And so he's not disappearing. I think he's just letting, and maybe giving Peter a false sense of security here.
Yes, and Peter is much higher on the equalized heart rate. So he's sort of in the hurt locker. We see, Ollie off the front. We don't see Ollie's heart rate here. Probably a pairing issue, because I did see that he was wearing a heart rate monitor. I think he might have had a little of technical, early on. I'm hearing we had some network issues on our servers at AWS, so that might have been the cause of that. But the with some malformed packets, or maybe a little bit of an attack going on there. But we see Jeff here saying, you know what, I'm in the hurt locker. But for those of us who have known Jeff for a long time, Jeff does like 24-hour rides. So Jeff's like, I can be in the hurt locker for a very, very long time. And it looks like he's going to try and break this race up a little bit more. Ollie is covering, Carl is covering, and as you would expect, Peter is covering. So very, very interesting here. A little bit of a gap between Carl and who's that in second position? That's Ollie, right? We got Jeff off the front, similar jerseys. It'll be interesting to see if Carl sort of lets that gap open up or if he's going to close it down.
Yeah, and I think that, Kay did do her work for Peter, and maybe she's going to try to get some points so she can help him. I don't know if she's going to close that down to this front group. If you look at the top 4 riders.
And interesting,
here,
you see Jeff here saying, you know what, Paceline dynamics work in Cadesport, so I'm going to get off the front, maybe go to the back, but maybe he wants to keep Kay out of the mix, which would make sense, right? Because otherwise you have solo riders here. But if Kay makes the bridge back, Kay can definitely provide a lot of help to Peter in the late moments of this race.
Yeah, you can see her heart rate coming back up a little bit higher, but still lower than the rest of the group for the amount of it she's working here. And as I was calling out, not to be counted out because we didn't talk about him for the first half of the race because he was just hiding in the back, biding his time. Carl Axel back out on front here at a really smart time as they come down the hill. There'll be another little flat, a bump, and then the finish. So these racers right now, it could be anybody's race. 4.9 kilometers to go. It does look like Kay is coming in. That's a lot of work. Let's not count that out, Frank. 1 or 2 seconds behind a group, and and a group that's moving and looking at the speed differential. She's just did a really nice job coming to that. That was a great job.
Yes, and my guess is she's either very fatigued or something's a little bit off. Oh, no, the heart rate is coming back up because it was actually going down, and I was like, nope, I don't think that's accurate. But she's caught back on. I will say this, Jeff, real good, had a real good sense, great race tactics there. He did an attack at just the right moment. He's really split the field. Everybody else is way back now. So, Timothy, everybody else is almost a minute back. So the winner will come with 4 kilometers to go, actually about 4.3 kilometers to go for those of you who are really accurate. But with about 4 kilometers to go here, the winner will come from this group. That's going to catch Timothy Tamont out. For sure. The best that he's going to be able to finish is 6th position. He's going to be dropping down the overall today because of that. And so now this really becomes a play between Peter and Carl. But having said that, Jeff has been scoring points. And if Jeff takes the win on the double points day, he's going to zoom right up probably into the podium positions for the day.
That's really great. It's good to see Jeff's name called out. I love the playfulness in the naming here in the racing, which is also fun. Now, Kay, coming to the front here, I'm not sure, what the idea is here, maybe to control the pace a little bit, but that's 500 watts. That's not controlling the pace. That's not coming to the front and say, let's settle down, friends, and regroup. She's putting some effort in.
Yes, and she might be saying, what is all this talk about Peter winning and Jeff winning and Carl winning? You know what? I think I'm going to go for the win today. And right now, I'm going to put some people into the hurt locker. And you see, there's a little separation here. Now, normally, I would say the rubber band is happening, but Carl does this quite a bit. I think he tries to optimize exactly what the draft is. What a lot of people do is they pedal a little bit too hard, and so they're burning energy, bumping into the back wheel. And Carl's like, no, I've got this down. And so every now and then, I'll fade a little bit because I'm really optimizing where I am in the draft. And he's a strong enough rider that doesn't bother him. Mentally, the reason other people don't do that is because mentally they can't take it. If that separation comes and they have to do a little bit bigger effort to catch back on, or there's an attack, it bothers them mentally. But Carl's like, that doesn't bother me. I'm right in the zone. I know I can get it back. And so the rest of the time, instead of being a little bit anxious, I'm saving lots of watts. 2.5 kilometers here to go. So we're really getting into the meat of the matter now.
Yeah, look at that beautiful pace line as the sun is setting behind them, just very much in sync. And I think that this is displaying the rider's actual skill, as you said, because they could let a little bit of gaps go down. You can see gaps come between the wheels, and when you're outside, there are some wheels you're more comfortable to get closer to than others. But in the game here, they're really moderating their effort and really trying to make sure that they maximize the draft and stay in that stretched out line here. 46 kilometers per hour here on the front, and 2 kilometers to go. You can see on the course profile there, they've got that little bump, and then they're going to have a little downhill to the finish here.
As we close in on the final kilometer, just to give you a sense, if Jeff wins the double points race, he will catapult himself into 2nd position, and that's assuming Peter finishes 2nd. So if Peter doesn't finish 2nd and goes a little bit down below, and finishes in 3rd, and Jeff finishes in 4th, Peter will only be a half point in front of Jeff. Now, hopefully, Jeff, I've given you enough motivation. You probably didn't need any, but hopefully I've given you enough motivation to seek that line, get the sprint right, because it looks like this is setting up as a sprint. Now, will somebody go from distance? Maybe Kay will go from distance. Carl's hanging out here at the back. Whenever I see a strong rider hanging out on the back, it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because I'm just waiting for that moment that person is going to come by super fast, do a sprint out of the back and catch me off guard, have a big speed differential, and then be able to hold it to the line. And Carl is definitely one of those riders that could hold it to the line. And Peter's probably got to do something like that because he's on rollers, right? So probably advantage Jeff or Carl here because of the rollers, unless Peter goes from pretty far out. But at this point, we're into the sprint zone because we're less than a kilometer to go. Probably about the furthest you can sprint is about 7 kilometers. It's hard to hold that. Most people will go with like 300 or 400 meters to go.
Axel dropping the power, 900,000. There he goes.
Yep,
He is
absolutely.
laying
So,
it down.
not a surprise here. We're seeing Ollie respond. We're seeing, hey, you know what? Peter says, I might be on rollers, but I'm going to hold 1,000 watts to the line. Carl's fading a little bit here. 400 meters to go, 300 meters to go. It's going to be interesting here at the line.
1, 2, 3, Carl, Ollie, and Peter. It looks like right now, Ollie coming across, laying down the power. Look at the control there on Peter's face here. Ollie's going to take that first spot. Carl is going to take the second spot. And Peter, whoa, where's Peter? Oh, okay, he just pulled aside and did Kay take some points there from Peter?
I don't think so, but we'll see the results when they pop up. Great sprint by Ollie, probably aided a little bit by equalization there, but I'm sure Ollie's stoked for the win. He did a great job in the race today. Probably will find the next sprint a little bit harder now that we know how he can sprint. Carl doing very, very well. Ollie, I think because of the technical, he'll jump right up the standings because of the double points. But Carl sort of locking in a lot more points. I think Peter was in third. And that will make the top of the leaderboard still tight with Carl at like 75, Peter Castro at like 70 and a half.
Here we go.
But you'd have to give
between Timothy and BJ. BJ comes around Timothy. Sorry to cut you off there. I just saw that coming, but he stops pedaling a little too soon. Having Timothy, the two of them in the last kilometer while you were talking, Frank, were up over 500 equalized watts, 191 on the heart rate, and they were just having a gentleman's duking it out there. Sorry to cut you off, but I was like, wait a minute, what's going on?
No. I always get wrapped up in thinking about the next race and not calling the current race. That's why I'm a second stringer, Beth, and just filling in for some other people.
I have to tell you, though, that was a pride not point sprint between the two of those at the end there. So these are the live results for race number 3 in this play set. Ollie in first, Carl Axel, second, Kay, Peter, Jeff, BJ, Timothy. We still got some other riders out on course. A great job there. But yeah, it was very obvious to me from the beginning, because just calling the first 2 races with Carl just being in front and taking the win, and then he was just kind of lurking in the back. He didn't surprise me or probably anyone else, but they probably were doing their own race and letting him knowing what he was going to do. You can see that Shaq's come across in Casey. Casey's, I haven't seen his name recently in recent weeks, but I know that Casey has a long history with Cadesport and World Cup racing here. Nice to see his name back in the mix here. Vanessa there coming in after that on race 3, Apex Mountains. This was the longest of the course with a 2-time multiplier. We had Lake Bend to start us off. We had Cade Cart in second on the playlist and Apex Mountains. Now we're getting ready for our 4th race in the playlist. There will be 2 power-ups in play, and it'll be interesting to see. Now, is there a multiplier on this one, Frank, the next race?
1, so it's not really a multiplier.
Okay, not a multiplier. All right, there you go. Carl Axel 75, Peter 66.5, and Timothy 58. So despite that that race in a position that he's not likely in, here we are. We're going already into the other race. We'll see how those points stack up. Casey, we're just talking about his name there. He did do that deployment that we saw on Tuesday and had the same result. You should have studied the tape. That's exactly what Vanessa did last week. Came out of the gate using the corner caper and just overcooked it on that first corner. We talked a little bit about this race on Tuesday, Frank, where there's a couple different philosophies. There's one, kick it hard on the straights and then kind of slow it down for the corners. And here Timothy's using his corner caper, the one corner caper that he has to get out in front and maybe sort of establish the lead position as our predator and let all the prey, get chased here. But he did get 4 seconds on Carl Axel, and that's his approach. He works hard. Let's see if he does it. He works hard. There you go. 700 watts, 500 watts on the straightaway, and then backs it down before he gets to the corner. Where Carl Axel just seems to be... Oh, no. Go ahead.
Yep. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's very good at braking. So that allows Timothy to go hard, brake, get off the brake, not over brake. Carl probably using a little bit more of a rhythm approach here as well. And one of the things that I caught that was interesting, Casey went down, and then Peter goes down. And I can understand that because Casey sort of took Peter out. He was ahead of everybody there, but Peter ran into the back of Casey as Casey came back over to the right-hand side. And then I think Peter got a little frustrated there and was trying to go around him, and that's probably backed him off, because at that point probably wasn't enough, but he was in front of Carl, and that would have given him a chance for the overall win today.
Yeah, it was interesting too. With the Casey Peter thing that we were seeing was the use of the quantum shift. It's very important in races like this. If you are trying to get around someone, but you have obstacles, you have corners to deal with, and of course the inside line on the corner has different speeds, non-crash speeds than the outside lane. It does look like everyone's sort of riding on the inside lane, so maybe there's some education that I can take away from that. But Timothy here in the front, Carl Axel just a couple seconds behind, and now he's coming across the line. Doesn't look like, oh, wait, did that just happen? Oh, that was insane. Timothy was coming across the line on the final turn there, and we saw Carl Axel drop the power-ups and come around him just at the line. That was bonkers, Frank.
That was bonkers, and Timothy might not be aware of this, but on the road, only a half a point separated him and Peter, and Peter was ahead, but it looked like if Peter had any issues, Timothy was going to take second for the overall. But that Carl passing Timothy certainly has locked, I believe, second position. We'll see as we get the results for the final race. But it looks like Carl will be first and Peter will be second for the race today. So we'll try and get that out here quickly.
Yeah, and look at that. This is race 4, and if you look at the difference, Carl Axel 2:31.398, Timothy 2:31.900. Like, that is the absolute crazy bonkers thing that happened, and the only reason why I could have called that live was that it was just clear at the very end when I saw that come around, just the camera angle. So Carl came and surprised. And I was just about to say before he did that, but it does look like Timothy. No, it's going to be Carl Axel. Some brilliant racing from Carl Axel today. Super proud to see that effort out there. Casey does come in third on this one. He was very strategic with using his quantum shift to kind of get past Peter, not letting him slow him down or block him in the lane when you have those obstacles. So, and then we've got Jeff in fifth, Shaq, and on down the line. And for the day, here are our live results standings. 95 points for Carl Axel in first place. Peter 78.5 and Timothy 75. Jeff, Ollie, Kay, BJ, Shaq, Vanessa, and Casey through 10 positions there. So, we started after race 1. The difference between position 1 and position 3 was a 3-pointer. We had 44 and 41 between first place and third place. But through the course of this play set, Carl stretched that out to be a 20-point spread between first and third, and Timothy able to hang on to that podium position, but maybe just got bumped down a little bit by that points grab at the end. So he probably would have, and that's what you were saying, he would have beat Peter. He would have came in second if Carl actually didn't overtake him at the line.
I think if Peter had held fourth position, they would have been separated by half a point, but I think Peter still would have had it. So because of the multipliers, I think the endurance races here gave Peter enough points on the day, but it would have been very close if Peter had gone down again and moved into fifth position behind Jeff. But Peter did very, very well today on the technical side, very well on the endurance side. Obviously, Carl killed it today. Carl is showing us both tremendous technical skill as well as the endurance. He's got both benefits, and he's going to be tough to beat as the weeks progress.
Absolutely. That was a lot of fun, and it is really great to see these racers on camera, to see their techniques, to see how how they're feeling. I always get a kick out of the interplay when they know I'm talking about them, and sort of the reactions that I get. I love it. I love seeing them. And Peter was all business today. Peter was in command. Carl Axel, he's just like a statistician. Like, he knows what his heart rate does. He knows the watts he can do. Not, it's one thing to know what your threshold is. It's one thing to know like what you can hold for 2 minutes. It's one thing to know how many matches you can burn, how many, but he has this tuning with his body that is very scientific. So he's very strategic, and I think even on a bad day, he can have a good day just because he's so scientific about his physiological self. So it's really interesting to see. And I will always give a ×2 multiplier for anyone who's going to race Cadesport on rollers. So just saying. Anyway, thanks everyone for all of the great racing. Anything to add, Frank, before we coast off until the sunset and you get to eat a sandwich?
I'd love to ask a couple of the riders questions. It's a feature that we have coming where we'll talk to the riders directly from the stream, because I'd like to know if Timothy was a little fatigued today, what his thinking was. I'd love to get some of Ollie's impressions from his ride today. Jeff looked very strong today. Peter had a very, very good day. I think we could all use some tips from Carl. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk with the riders and see, what we guessed was their strategy or their tactics and what they actually were. They can correct us. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, same. That sounds great. I always love to hear the perspective. So, well, that's going to wrap up this Thursday racing, this 4-race playlist, Cadesport Thursday racing. And we're going to do it all again on Saturday. I won't be with you, but the races, if you had a good time and you want to see if you can make some improvements, do some different tactics, join the races on Saturday.